Hey everybody.
Hi.
Welcome to TFT, Tarot for Today. Divine Dabblings with
Oberon.
and me, Banshee. Well, it's the final part of our labored U.S. and World Predictions videos, and it is the World Part 2, right?
Or Part 4 overall.
Right. World Part 2, which is about some of the countries' diplomatic relations or relations with other countries or entities. And we've kept the U.S. out of this a little bit. It may come up in one or two areas, a few areas, but we basically are trying to look at other countries and their relations. Now, we also have NATO in there because of, well, various reasons that will become clear as we read. So we didn't pick everybody. We didn't choose everybody. We picked some main players. We picked some places where there might be some interest. And we apologize if we have missed your part of the world. You know, I recognize there are some big parts we have not covered.
Right.
But we just picked what we thought might be of interest. And if there is a hue and cry and there is an interest in some other areas that we should include next time, let us know.
And certainly if world events in 2025 seem to pull their activity or locus focus towards a country, let's say it's Australia or New Zealand, we will probably want to catch up with that and do some kind of preliminary reading on it, because we do that.
And I will say this, even with some of the countries we did pick, we don't really know some of the stuff that's currently going on there. So it's going to be a nice cold read. We'll probably mention some of that as we read it, and see what we come up with. See if we hit on some things, if you are part of any of those areas when they come up.
So let's get going then.
Let's get going.
All
right. Well,
so like before, we basically have 4 cards for each of these situations.
We have a theme, and then we have the major issue, challenge, or opportunity, the factors at play, whether positive or negative, and where things stood by the end of the year. And so let's take a look at what is going on here. We're going to look first at a couple of the big superpowers and their relation with one another. And that would be Russia and China.
All right.
Have an interesting relationship. Sometimes China's kind of acting like they would like, the war in Ukraine to end. They've been very careful with how they handle that, but they have been clearly supporting Russia's war efforts in a number of ways anyway. And China, of course, has its own concerns about grabbing land that they feel is theirs, Taiwan. I'm not going to say one way or another, but that is something, it seems like there's a lot of talk, whether it's the U.S. or others, about land grabbing going on. Or actions, because really, Russia wants Ukraine back. So Ukraine wants to remain a sovereign nation. And by the way, we'll get to those two in a little bit. But now for Russia and China. Now they may or may not work together in the year ahead.
All right, so Russia and China first. Theme or point of focus?
Well, it's the Knight of Wands reversed. That's a real interesting thing for the theme or focus. It just seems as though... go ahead. I'll let you go.
Since we're considering 2 major powers, it almost, and that relation between them, it sort of seems like there's a semi-pause between them, or there's a semi-standoff. They're more or less equally matched, or one could think that in a way. Is this mean more likely that one is backing down to the other or thinking of that?
I was wondering that myself, that very point. I thought about that and I thought, well, maybe this could mean that there is going to be a rift that's going on between them. I guess we're going to have to look at all the cards to see, but another initial impression was that maybe this means one is going to acquiesce to the other's needs, wants, or desires.
So as a theme or point of focus, this is kind of like who's going to give in first or who's going to come out on top.
And that's funny you mentioned that too, because I'm thinking to myself here, and I was just thinking that to myself, so I
especially
swear,
when you said acquiesce.
We are on a wavelength here, because I was going to say that maybe... Oh, shoot, now I lost my thought with all my prattling. Maybe one was going to... Well, one is definitely maybe going to dominate the other. That's what it looks like to me. It's very possible one could dominate the other. We'll talk again. It may come back to me.
In respect to the actual idea here, one is sort of standing down from the other.
Standing down from the other. That's true, too. Maybe one is just letting things go the way they go. That's a good point. Maybe also this is saying that Russia and China are banding together because they feel their backs are against the wall with other countries.
That's very interesting.
I mean, I'm not going to roll that out either. Let's take a look at the rest of this.
So our second card is about the major issues, challenges, or opportunities. And it is about
balance,
finding equilibrium between them. It's
balance
the Two of Pentacles,
power.
Upright. So their challenge or major issues or opportunities is figuring out where they fit into each other's point of view and or agendas.
How can they work to benefit one another mutually? You see that balancing act there. And it could have something to do with finances. You never know what you're hearing in the media anymore, because the media is being co-opted by one side or the other, it seems, these days. And so, it's debatable to me if we're getting the whole story here, but I have heard that Russia's economy is really in the toilet from the war and everything, losing all the troops, losing all the equipment, putting all the money into the war effort, and so and all the sanctions against them. And so how can one mutually benefit each other economically? Is it going to be a balanced relationship? Looks like they're trying to find their ways that they can mutually support each other.
That's very much the case. And when you consider the full range of pentacle things, then it also includes, security and safety too, that there probably are going to create, treaties or situations between them where they will more likely help secure each other or be, backup persons for various things.
So that seems to be a big factor. Where things... well, that was a major issue.
Yeah.
That seems to be the big issue.
Card 3 is the actual factors at play, the positive or negative. That's almost perfect.
Isn't it?
The Hangman.
You've got the positives and negatives here. You've got two ego-driven power leaders here, dictators, if you may, because they, for some reason, can always get reelected no matter what the population really thinks. And so I think here there's a clash of egos. That's the factors at play, both positive and negative here. Who's the strongest man here? And are they playing that, or are they trying to treat each other as equals? Will ego get in the way of, them trying to reach a good working relationship?
In this context, the reversed Hangman really does kind of go to the heart of that, especially when you look at the previous card or two. You sort of realize there is this balancing act going on. There's a sense that, between the two of them, although they want to be pretty supportive of each other, one may have to acquiesce and or accept a submergence of their own ego or goals.
Well, maybe they both do. Are they willing to make the necessary sacrifices in order to appease each other? That's the factor of play,
is figuring out where the playing field of their ego balances out.
So, what's next?
Where things stand by the end of 2025.
It's a work in progress.
Yes.
But it looks constructive.
It looks
I will
very
say that.
constructive.
It looks like they are trying to, by the end of 2025, it seems like they are going to be kind of working together, on common goals, whatever they are, whether it's world domination, economic recovery, or economic domination, whatever it may be.
The words are regions of cooperation. When you look at that, display there of the moons, you could say that, this is networking, pure and simple. This is the idea that they're figuring out where exactly their pieces fit together.
Interesting reading, I think.
Nice, yes.
Definitely nice. It looks as though they will be working through some of the issues that they have with one another and coming up with more agreement. It may be that they are going to be a force to be reckoned with if they can both pull themselves, even more tightly together.
All right.
All right.
So that was Russia and China. We will now move on to something that maybe is not quite the same balance of world energies or powers, but certainly something where diplomatic relations is all too important.
Well, I think we have two strong leaders here, that's for sure. Russia and Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelensky should not be looked at as a lightweight. He has really garnered a lot of world support. He's garnered the support of his own people. He's garnered respect worldwide for what he's, for the battles that he's facing against the larger, more powerful nation of Russia. And Russia, I don't know, I don't want to be...
I should be first, right?
Yes. Am I battling too much?
No, you're not, but I should be first shuffling the cards this time.
You are right.
So now go ahead and babble.
Well, I can babble now while he shuffles. And so I think here that, with Russia, I don't want to make them look like the bad guys, but they did invade Ukraine, who wants to be a sovereign nation, and they started this conflict. So now let's see how it's going between Russia and Ukraine in this year ahead as these two, countries continue this sad battle. Right. Okay, the major theme or whatever.
Point of focus.
Oh boy.
Ah.
It's the Six of Pentacles reversed. Well, I think that as far as it goes for both of them, clearly Ukraine has disadvantages. Ukraine is really relying on a lot of outside help in order to keep this war effort going and to give Russia a good fight. But on the other hand, Russia has also been seeking help, financial support from China, maybe some things that they need, but also North Korea, utilizing North Korean troops and maybe some of their other allies in the region. Lukashenko's government comes to mind, maybe some troops or support from them as well. So, but things seem to be out of balance here. It seems like they're losing. I think it might be, and I think this might be on both sides. With the changes going on in the United States, you never know how much more, this government is going to want to fund Ukraine, sad as that sounds. And so that may happen. And on the other hand, Russia is just in a bad spot right now itself.
Well, what I get from that, too, is maybe the idea of the need for Russia to take something here. When the Six of Pentacles is reversed, I almost get this feeling like maybe somebody trying to take more than what they deserve.
More greedy.
Greedy. It's a greedy kind of thing. And so I'm saying that, part of the theme or point of focus is that this is their empire overreach.
Nice one, Mr. O.
Thank you.
Like that. All right, so
Card 2 is the major issues, challenges, or opportunities.
it's upright.
The upright King of Swords.
Well, the issues or challenges obviously are, can they reach agreement this year? You know, one thing that the administrator in this country, the U.S., is saying is that they're tired of the war. They want the war to end. They want Russia, supposedly, to end the war now. And so will there be some kind of work towards an agreement this year? That seems to be the major issue or challenge. And it is a challenge. How can they agree? Because Ukraine does not want to give up their land now. They're up. They've lost a lot in this war, and now they're going to have to compromise by actually giving up their land. So I don't know if that's going to happen. It's not going to be very easy to reach this agreement.
I'm going to be surprised if the Hanged Man or other cards representing the ego battle don't show up too.
Again.
Because I think the major issue or challenge or opportunity is that somebody, or maybe both sides, really want to look like this was a good thing, that it ended, if it possibly ended in a wise way. You know, they want to sort of be seen as making the right decisions, you know, whatever those decisions end up being. So in effect, if Russia ends up achieving their goals and subjugating, you know, Ukraine, there certainly will be this idea of making it look like this was the right thing to do. Almost like what's going on in another part of the world, the Middle East, with what's going on between a couple of countries right now.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. This has a lot to do with legal haranguing as well.
There you go.
And I mean, and justice being done, something that is, you know, well thought out and right for everybody. This can't be anything but that. So I think here, you know, that's the goal, but that is the major issue, challenge, or opportunity. And it's definitely a challenge trying to do the right thing here. Mm-hmm. All right.
So what are the factors at play that are either positive or negative, or possibly both?
It's positive.
Ah, nice.
I mean,
the upright Ace of Pentacles.
You know, if we're going to touch on negative, we can do that. But the thing, you know, the negative aspects of this would be, you know, how do you break new ground? How do you establish growth when this war is ongoing? You can't. That's the negative aspects of this. You want growth. You want a good economy. You can't do it under these circumstances. So I think it's more positive than not here. I think that really the outcome could be, or the positivity here, factors at play is that maybe some new initiative will take place towards peace. I do feel it's aligned with this King of Swords here more clearly than that first card.
Well, the factors at play clearly are each side would want this to be the beginning of new opportunities, new growth, new sense of security or foundation for them. So whether or not that can be achieved through diplomacy is, of course, the question. Maybe the King of Swords speaks to that, but I'm thinking that it's just still going to be a little bit more complicated getting there. I guess that leads us...
That leads us. That's exactly it. You know, I'd like to think that this is where things are headed, but that's not the final card. The final card is where things will end up by the end of 2025. Oh.
You silly girl.
Oh.
And it is the reversed Seven of Wands. Now, of course, if we were going to be magnanimous, this could go either way for either of these countries. That maybe one of them is just going to have to retreat and back down, or not find that they are going to be able to move forward and above this whole situation.
Yeah, somebody is going to give up something, unfortunately. It could be land, it could be that higher ground of theirs, but that could be either side. It's possible Putin will have to make some concessions thereof as well. Well, maybe this could be that Ukraine will have to agree not to join NATO. I mean, maybe that's what it could be too.
I was going to say that it looked like maybe something would be ended by the year, but it would not be a diplomatic kind of solution. However, I sort of feel like what she's saying is true, that there could be agreements made where clearly somebody is making a concession of sorts.
And it's funny you say that, because I know there's kind of an element of defeat here and failure, but on the other hand, looking at all these cards, I see nothing here that really talks about the aggressive war element of it.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if that Nine of Wands came up here reversed, that would be telling to me. But with this standing alone here with these two positive cards before it, I almost think it means that there will be a peace or a truce, not come through surrender per se, but somebody having to make some major concessions. That's how I feel about this. I don't know, but maybe it could go the other way. We'll have to see how this plays out.
Well, we got one more reading that involves Russia as a main player, and that is not so much between another nation, but between an alliance.
An alliance.
It's NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
There's been all kinds of problems between Russia and NATO. Russia does not like the expansion of NATO. They wanted to, stop Ukraine from entering. But in the process of doing that war, 2 other members did join NATO, so out of fear. And so interesting interplays between the two. And now with the U.S. possibly with the current administrator in office, might want to abandon NATO, then or weaken it in many ways. This could be playing right into Russia's hands. So let's take a look at Russia and NATO countries and see what we get. And the U.S. is part of that. So I guess,
this will possibly pull some aspects.
Yeah. That's when I was mentioning before that we may come up. This is one of the ways we are. And it came up in the Russia-Ukraine war, too, because if we withhold funding from Ukraine, either the rest of Europe's going to have to rally around that, or it could cause some problems. All right, Mr. O. There you go.
All right. And if you're just watching us for the first time, the previous 3 parts of this set of predictions are on our YouTube channel. They're actually in their own playlist, which I believe is called USA World Predictions, but you may be able to find them elsewhere on the channel too, since they're all within the last 2 or so weeks. All right.
Right.
Severe cut there.
I'll say.
All right. So Russia and NATO, card 1, the theme or point of focus. Why are you doing this?
It's the same card. It's the
card?
same card that came out the first time.
Oh, Russia. This
that
is
last
more about you.
No, I'm not sure. Well, I think here it's about a balance. Russia and NATO both worry about the balance of power. Maybe, that includes wealth, but I think here it's about security and and power. And, security kind of falls in line there with the Pentacle cards.
Now, from Russia's point of view, they feel they're on the losing end of the stick. They feel that a lot of things that NATO have been doing have sort of been invasive and maybe even out of actual treaty. I'm aware of some of this.
And NATO is worried that Russia wants too much, and is bypassing, the sovereignty of nations, and, so there's definitely an imbalance.
The major theme is that between these situations, there's not necessarily a feeling of equality.
All right, next one.
Card 2, the major issues, challenges, or opportunities.
It's the King of Cups.
The upright King of Cups.
Well, that's interesting. So the major issues, challenges, or opportunity is how can an organization that how should I say, member state countries that is based on, their military might and their security, find a way to work things out with Russia. A place that is attacking a country that wanted to be a partner in NATO, but is not. And how can we find peace? How can we find peace between NATO and Russia? Is there somebody who could take the lead on this? It has to be somebody who is very diplomatic and not kind-hearted, but at least, and I don't want to use empathy because apparently empathy is a bad word now, but at least understanding of the feelings of both sides here and the needs of both sides.
I'll be short and to the point, but I think a lot of what this card is about is the idea that there needs to be a peaceful, benevolent kind of energy going on here, whether it's through the capable diplomats that maybe are able to help, or how a nation's mind is changed or its perceptions are changed. But basically, we need to find a way to work for peace.
So in other words, more saber rattling between these two entities is not a good idea.
Yeah. Maybe there is an opportunity to broker something more peaceful.
Well,
Card 3, the factors at play, positive or negative. And
it's the Queen of Swords.
All right, so sometimes kill them with kindness.
Kill them with kindness. Kill them with thought. I think here the factors, positive or negative, is, how sound is everybody's thinking right now is important. I think one way or another. How people really think this through and not just react. The idea is to not react, to think before reacting. And so I think that's the positive here. If maybe there is more of that happens and more engagement and dialogue as opposed to a knee-jerk reaction to stuff, maybe things could improve.
Well, we all know that somebody's positive is somebody else's negative. And, the Queen of Swords is known as a person who possibly decides by hell or high water, they're just going to make this decision and everyone has to live with it. And so the Queen of Swords is sort of a surrogate for the person who makes the harsh decisions that really have to be made. And so, of course, that means that for them, that might be a positive, but for the other side, that might be a negative. And so this is hard to say exactly, but this is what the factors are between Russia and NATO, that if certain decisions have to be made, they will be made by somebody, coalition or otherwise, of somebody who feels they are doing what they really have to do regardless.
So, where will this lead them by the end of 2025? Another pentacle. I was wondering if I was going to get a wand here or going to have one of each suit, but we did not. It's the Knight of Pentacles reversed. Well, no progress,
Quagmire.
I feel. Yeah, I feel like things
bad.
Could get worse,
Right. This could just say that the whole functionale between NATO and Russia is really going to be mired in a lot of stuff. And maybe this could even say that, even certain other bad actors or bad acting situations contribute to that.
I think here that everything is kind of stalled, or there are people that are being very stubborn with each other. And so I feel here that, not a lot of progress by the end of 2025, maybe none. At best, maybe it's a stalemate, but I'm not thinking so. I'm thinking something is gone amok here.
All right.
Well,
so I can't say anything more than that. Initially, that idea of slow motion is really prevalent here.
Yeah, I mean, so really, if we had to look at this, and I sort of think this is an important category, the Russia-NATO thing. So the theme, the point of focus is just a real imbalance, an imbalance of power. Maybe some are feeling an imbalance of resources here, whatever the case may be. This could also be that one of the sides maybe feel a little less at an advantage than the other. And, all right, factors at play, positive or negative. Well, I I said something before about stirring the pot. I think because that's what this kind of makes me feel, that somebody's playing emotional games here, and I think that's a negative, but it could be a positive too, because the king is upright. Maybe the idea is somebody who is trying to steer somebody's emotions one way or the other.
Well, without saying that, of course, there's good and bad sides to this. This could represent the idea that there are a few people who really have big opinions of themselves from that point of view of being a broker of some sort.
Right. There's maybe somebody who is trying to resolve issues between, the two.
That's
maybe one country in particular. Okay, so then the where
Factors.
the factors. I'm sorry, the factors. Well, for positive or negative, I just feel here that people have to really do some serious, hard thinking about, the relationship here and what's necessary to kind of take the edge off of things.
The Queen of Swords is charged with making a judgment or a decision, but it needs to be the best possible one that would be for the best possible most amount of people. And that's not always portrayed in any depiction, but I think that's why we chose this deck, because it gives us more thoughtful ideas to look at what it's saying.
And it seems like with Russia and NATO, there's just not a lot of good stuff going on. It's
This could even indicate that somebody in these parties tries to slow down the progress too.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening too, is treaties are being delayed or their implementation, etc.
There's just sluggishness. There's a lack of drive. There is an inability to move things forward in a positive direction, in a growthful direction. So that's what we have there.
All right, so that was Russia and NATO. We are now going to move on to China and Taiwan. This should be interesting.
I forget who's shuffling, but I guess I will do it.
If you started on Russia, then that meant Russia and China, then...
I don't remember which one of us started, so, I'll just take it from here. I'll just take it from here. All right. China and Taiwan. So let's hope there's no confrontations in this year ahead. We know that China wants Taiwan, and Taiwan does not want China. So there's a conflict.
And Taiwan saying, "But will you love me tomorrow?" No.
Okay. You're shuffling and cutting. I'm sorry. All right.
And we are glad to finally be finishing up part 2 or part 4, however you want to look at it.
Yes, it's been fraught with difficulties.
Well,
getting it to you.
The scheduling
Yes.
situations that had to be sorted out. My life's a 3-ring circus.
Anyway. All right. China and Taiwan.
All right. The theme or the point of focus? Uh-oh.
Well, the family's not happy.
Wow.
10 of Pentacles reversed. There's going to be maybe some confrontations. There may be just this idea of I don't know. I'm going to let you go. I had a thought, but I
sometimes
lost
I
it.
get the feeling of symbolic, intuitive feelings rather than, some more actual aspects of the card that I might know. And so when I look at the reversed 10 of Pentacles, I get the feeling that sometimes people say, well, we're family or we should be family, but it's a very uneasy, it's sort of like lip service to the idea of being connected. And of course, up until now, there has been always, even with my amount of understanding, just sort of a detente or whatever they call that between the two, that they're never quite exactly feel they're paired right. And in fact, that there may be some serious issues between them.
Well, when I look at this card too, and I think of the economic aspects of this card, and it's reversed, it's as if I'm wondering here if somebody is going to do something to mess with the other country financially, blockades or, I don't know, messing with trade agreements, just some meddling with one of the country's financial status. It seems as though money is a major issue here, and maybe assets, a nation's assets. And things aren't going well. I think that they can't reach agreement on living and let living. And China's made it clear they want to bring the family back together. It's kind of like Russia and Ukraine. And so I think that's where the problem lies. They don't know how to live and let live here.
Well, remember too that pentacle cards like this, or most of them, also have indications for security, the sense of being safe or feeling safe or protected, or maybe measures that encroach upon that.
So maybe it's not so much about economic security, it is about security. And maybe this is not a good sign as the first card, major theme.
Card 2, the major issue, challenge, or opportunity.
It's the Four of Swords upright.
Wouldn't it be nice if we could all just take a vacation from this and come back to it refreshed, renewed, and revitalized?
This is really strange because it's the major issues or challenges. And, I wonder here when I see this Four of Swords, I don't want to say this and I don't want to cause alarm. This is about diplomatic relations, but could there be some kind of pandemic that happens again in one of these countries that's causing some of the economic turmoil we saw in the beginning? When I see the Four of Swords, I think of illness, right? Recovery needed, rest. Maybe what this is also saying is the factor that's playing a role in this is perhaps China is just not yet ready to act. Maybe there's other things going on, of course, because, you got kind of a trade war and different things going on with the U.S. and China. So maybe they're just not ready to deal with Taiwan. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Here's another way of looking at the issue, challenge, or opportunity is that maybe on China's side, they want to keep Taiwan sort of in the background. Taiwan was pretty much its own entity and dealt with the rest of the world as it wished to, but now in their wanting to absorb it back, they want to be in charge of how Taiwan's public face looks now. So they want to hold it back in a respect. Or put it on pause.
And it's possible too, the issue is who is ready? I mean, maybe they both aren't ready to face each other off, and get this thing settled. So maybe this is just a pause and a step back.
All right. So then the actual factors at play, whether they are positive or negative.
Wow, talk about the opposite in a way.
Set me free.
It's the Eight of Swords reversed. Somebody is going to find their power here. Somebody is going to stand up, and stand up for themselves and have the courage and move forward on something. I think that's the factors that play, positive or negative. So in a way, it almost sounds like maybe one country's here
Yes,
and
that
one
you stole
country's
it. You
here.
stole it from me. I was exactly
Okay.
going to say
All right.
this felt to me more like mainland China. This feels more to me like Taiwan, feeling that they're hoping to get out of this trap, this illusion that disempowers them, but is not necessarily one of their own making,
Well,
or maybe it is.
I think they're always standing up for themselves. I mean, of course they
Okay.
fear and they would need help, but they're not helpless either. And I think they have been to some extent
Do
preparing for this.
do
But
Does Taiwan possibly see that the illusion is something China wants to create, that they're helpless without
well,
them?
remember, it's reversed. There's no illusion
Yeah.
anymore. There's reality.
Okay,
And
that's right.
so,
Thank you.
no, it's okay. I kind of think looking at this, I'm thinking that maybe China's finding itself at less an advantage to move forward, and Taiwan is either setting up more boundaries or standing up for themselves more, taking advantage of the situation.
I think that's it. I think you have something better there. So, therefore, where will things stand by the end of 2025?
Oh.
And it's the lovers reversed. And perhaps decisions have to be made between the appropriate persons involved between either of these situations, and it may be one of those devils in the detail kind of things, or it's not exactly an equitable decision, or it's a decision that
It's not an
favors.
ethical decision. And
It's
so, therefore, it sounds like a little dirty deal or dirty trick going on here between these two. Um, Could there be a sneaker surprise attack? Could there just be a bad decision to do something to the other side that's going to provoke something? It's going to wake the sleeping giant. I mean, we could be a little bit more fluid with these cards and decide who's who here, but I think there's something funny by the end of 2025 that will take place. Don't know how serious. I don't know that I'm seeing out and out war here, but this first card does trouble me a bit.
I hadn't put it into that context, but with the last card, I sort of feel like it could be saying, China especially is saying, don't poke me. You don't know how I will react, what decision I will make, with maybe it's sort of having some sense of an innuendo of a threat.
Okay.
Okay.
So basically, again, we have a situation where they're not getting along. They're not cooperating economically. And as a matter of fact, one wants to kind of assume the resources and land of the others. So there's clearly a divide here in the family. And, the major issues that they have to face are the fact that, I don't know, it's as if maybe there's this pause. There's just this pause. There's either preparation going on or it's recovery from something. And I feel here, I'm not going to rule out something going on in one of the countries that's going to be a setback. China has been having some economic difficulties of late. And also, we can't rule out pandemics. So
yeah, you were good to point that out, I think.
I just don't know. And then finally here, somebody tends to come out, somebody's seeing the reality of their situation and feeling they have more power than they thought. And so that's sort of why I almost think this is Taiwan, but it could be China saying, hey, I'm back, But the thing is, this could be Taiwan, and they kind of make a stand of some sort. Mm-hmm. And whatever the case may be, by the end of 2025, it seems like they are not treating each other well. Or one of them is really, not making good decisions, and it's affecting the other country in a negative way.
Right, and that could be a sense of retaliation or just trying to say, we know what's best for you.
So I think it's going to be more tit for tat this year over there, and maybe nothing too serious, maybe.
All right.
All right.
So now we're going to turn our attention to diplomatic relations between Great Britain and the EU, the European Union.
Oh, Great Britain and the EU. And I really haven't been paying much attention what's going on there. I can't remember if it's Ireland or Scotland, but somebody is still part of the EU. Am I right? I think it might be
so.
Ireland, but I'm not sure. And
I'm so bad for not knowing.
yeah, I know. I feel bad about this, so we should have prepared more. But we're going into this cold to see if there's any movement one way or another with the EU and Great Britain. Maybe more collaboration anyway, even if Great Britain's not a part of the EU, or England is not. Don't be too grabby. All right. Oh, Well, I thought the leaving was already done. But there is the Eight of Cups. The Eight of Cups is upright.
Yeah,
and that's here.
And that is our theme or point of focus.
That is our theme. Is it about the departure of Britain from Brexit still an issue? Is it something else? Is there another part of the British Empire that wants to, join the EU, rejoin the EU? Could it be like Scotland or one of the other,
This is a real interesting card to put into the context because it could mean it on either side.
I know.
It could be saying that one or the other realizes they need to see the light. It could be both of them, maybe.
And are they moving towards each other or away from each other? So it's hard to say. It's hard to say if this is something internal. But there is movement. And, it could be that EU is distancing itself more from Britain, or maybe there's a walking towards each other.
Well, we said we weren't going to bring up the U.S. a whole lot, but this could be a reflection.
Well, we said in passing, because they may...
what happened with our election and how things are changing in our structural situations, maybe how they affect either of these two.
With the power dynamics going on, I could almost see
dialoguing.
Yeah. Well, or making coalitions.
Yes.
They may not join, but they might combine forces against an outside threat. Whether it's the U.S., whether it's the Soviet Union.
All right, so then our second card is
I should say Russia.
Major issue, challenge, or opportunity. Well, I think this is clear.
Yeah, in a way. So the major issues, challenge, or opportunity is a balance of power. That's number one. But also maybe it is trying to find some stable common ground.
Yes.
It does sound like there's some movement going on here. And it seems more constructive right now than not. Right?
Right. So I think we can expect to hear in either of these cases news or situations developing around the idea that maybe different parties want to talk about where they can find common cause to some degree, or where they can renegotiate or balance situations that are still a little unstable finance-wise.
Right. Maybe finding ways to especially if tariffs get thrown around from the U.S. and all of that. They may be setting up new trade agreements, new commerce channels, whatever the case may be here.
What are the factors that play, positive or negative, or both?
It's healing.
Healing.
It's the Three of Swords.
You go, guys. If we can't do it, somebody should.
Wow, kumbaya. No, I feel here that, some past hurts are being resolved now, or being, subsiding. And I feel here there's a recovery of some sort, and maybe, the two entities are feeling, they're safer being more friends with one another than not.
You're better together.
Wow.
Card 4. Where will things stand by the end of 2025? Oh,
Well, after
still
all
a
of
little
that,
rocky.
let's not get too excited, right?
Yeah,
It's
don't get too
death
excited.
reversed.
There may be some finer points that will stall or be sluggish to resolve.
Well, I think if anything, was happening as far as a say reintroduction of Britain into the EU, or some of the nations from England, Wales, Scotland, whatever, wanting to join the EU, rejoin the EU, there may be stalls here. That may not happen, but I have this feeling there's going to be a better working relationship this year. I don't even know if we have to recap this so much as just say that there's going to be finding a balance, between these two entities and healing.
And I can't help but say that this is probably in reaction to how they view the American situation and or the relations going on between us and or other countries besides themselves.
Well, I think it's a little of that. I think they're looking at their common threats, Russia being one, and the U.S. now, unfortunately, possibly being another.
All right.
All right.
So that was very interesting. That one just read like butter.
In a way it did.
So now we are on to the Middle East and Israel. And we thought a bit about how we wanted to do this. And without going on for hours on end, it was hard to do every possible country or situation. So we tried to pick the ones we thought were the most important in the overall scheme of the world moving into this year.
Yeah, and I'm sorry we missed some key people. I noticed that France is not on here, and France may be a major player in some areas as well. Also, I noticed that Germany is not on here either. And
I'm both of those. I'm part German, I'm part French.
That aside, these are two entities that are having some of their own issues right now, too. So, Germany's got the rise of a far-right party, and they're concerned about meddling from the U.S. that's happening. We're aware of this situation.
I think it's possible that as world situations go, it's always likely that we may have an opportunity to do spot checkups here or there with the world situation, later in the year, every couple of months maybe.
Well, or maybe if things start heating up, we will check in. I noticed, for example, France has offered troops to Greenland if there's any threat to their sovereignty. So, there's all kinds of little things going on here, and we just simply could not cover them all. And we kind of covered Canada with the U.S., so I don't feel too bad about that. I don't remember if we did the U.S. and France. We may have. So, some of these areas may have been covered in our previous reading to some extent. All right.
All right, so once again, Middle East and Israel. Card 1 is the theme or point of focus.
It's the Page of Swords.
The Page of Swords.
It's good to see.
Real obvious, duh.
Well, no, it's really good to see.
It's good to see, yeah.
Because the theme is about diplomacy. The need for diplomacy between all of these countries to take down, the volatility level going on and the rhetoric, right? So I'm hoping there's going to be more dialogue between Israel and the adjoining countries instead of bombs.
Right. That should be the major point, is that they find a way to talk and talk tactfully, not with, hatred or distrust, but try to find a common meeting place.
And speak truth to one another. Truth, that's a hard thing to come by today.
So card 2 is the major issue, challenge, or opportunity in all that. We're good, aren't we?
Well, it's the Emperor reversed.
Who's going to be in charge?
Well, that is the major theme or opportunity, or it could be particular individuals.
Who has to give up more?
It could be, for example, maybe the leaders in Iran. It could be, for example, Netanyahu. It could be, for example, outsiders like the U.S., which has given themselves a major stake in the Middle East. So it could be Trump, because certainly a reversed emperor sounds like him, but it sounds like Netanyahu to me, and he could be a real stumbling block.
Well, an emperor reversed oftentimes is like another version of the emperor has no clothes. They're somebody who's not always willing to listen to who they should, or they often feel they are an island unto themselves. And a good emperor is really sort of in dominion over a number of situations and cannot realistically do it all. They need to have sub-emperors. We would call those kings or counts or dukes or countesses or princesses who would help them.
Well, I don't know Netanyahu's relations with, for example, his staff, his administration,
Delegates.
and how they work together. But I can tell you that this emperor, to me, reflects somebody who feels they can solve everything themselves. They have all the answers. You must follow them. Who does that sound like? It sounds like the U.S. to me, but I mean, so I don't know.
In this context, though,
if we have one person, in the Middle East who wants to muck up the works with a power struggle and is wielding power very negatively, this could be a real problem.
It's an issue.
It's an issue.
So now we find out what are the other factors at play, negative or positive. Oh, no.
It's the Five of Cups reversed.
Oh, okay. That's a little better. Hey?
Yeah. Absolutely. There's opportunities here. If we can get around wherever this energy is coming from, I feel like there is opportunities for, maybe some real dialogue and positive movement so far as Middle Eastern affairs goes.
I think there are even some healing opportunities possible in the Five of Cups, maybe because of being able to see things with a renewed perspective, maybe finding that you can find common cause if one is able to see from another perspective, and that's going to be a little hard in this situation. They have literally generations, hundreds of years, thousands of years of distrust. That's going to be hard.
It is going to be hard, but there is hope. There's, kind of like a light at the end of the tunnel there, in a way. However, I did want to point something out to Mr. O before we go on. Do you know who the first world leader Trump is going to meet is?
I don't know, but I guess you're going to tell me.
It's Netanyahu.
Of course.
So I don't know how that's going to play out with all of this. So stay tuned.
So, card for our final card, where things stand by the end of 2025.
Well, it's the Four of Pentacles reversed.
I'd like to say that maybe this means sharing is caring.
Well, it is true. There's a loosening up of something. Maybe there's a loosening up of positions and stands that people have. Maybe some people are more willing to give a little bit in debates and in diplomacy. Maybe, there will be a real fair exchange now. That's not usually what's said here, but somebody's going to need to let go of something. But it seems like they're willing to do it. So I don't think this is bad. And maybe it's all sides. Maybe all sides have something to give in this. But by the end of 2025, I think we're going to see some movement, some opportunity for some concessions.
The word that comes into my mind with this particular version of the Four of Pentacles could be, when it's reversed, could be rebuilding. Kind of the idea that things need to be reallocated to improve things. And so that could be saying, if we were lucky, we might get to a point where maybe we can see how we can focus on rebuilding structures. Not necessarily the physical property, but at least the region of cooperation that really needs to exist here.
Sonny, I had to call him back because he was eating a box over there on the floor.
He likes a box.
Yeah, he shouldn't be eating the glue. He likes the glue
So
on the
do we
box.
need a wrap up on this?
Well, a wrap up is that I think that peace, more stability is possible here. However, there could be some disruptors. There could be some disruptors that are trying to mess with this process. But I feel here there's a real opportunity for both sides to give in a little bit and make some concessions.
Sure hope so.
Me too. That's pretty positive. Rather
liked it.
surprised. I like it. But
All right.
after all that's been going on there, we need a break. They need a break. Both sides, all sides.
All right, so we're going to move on now to India and Pakistan. And it's, of course, a pretty far away part of the world for us here in America. And to some degree, like with these other quantities, we may not know as much about them. We may not be as culturally competent about all of their issues, but we wanted to give it a shake. There are certainly some things that we do know.
India and Pakistan have been, in conflict with each other. Things may have settled a bit, but, it's good to check out what the relationship is going to be like in the year ahead. India's a major force and big country, and Pakistan has a huge population. So let's take a look at what's going on here. I think you were supposed to shuffle first, but that's okay.
Don't know.
Sunny. They think it's dinner time probably, but it is not.
No, it's still over an hour away.
It is not. Oh, stop that, Sonny.
I meant to close the door.
I know. It's okay.
All right.
Wow, I guess that way. Okay.
Card 1 is theme or point of focus in India and Pakistan.
That's the King of Swords upright.
All right.
So there may be some negotiations going on between the two countries, or people working towards making some type of agreements or deals, whether this is trade, whether this is commerce, whether this is, something to do with, that would be the most likely things, I think. There seems to be a lot of level-headedness, a lot of balance, a lot of clarity. People know where they it seems as though India and Pakistan are going to know pretty clearly where they stand with one another in this year ahead. And I almost get the feeling that things are going to be pretty fair and balanced.
Right. It seems like a good decision can be reached. There probably are some important issues between the two countries. They may refer to maybe border issues or just areas of commerce or cooperation, but it feels like there's a strong sense of wanting to get along or wanting to arrive at the same or the equitable decision. And I like the little animals there too, because I think it maybe provides the idea that a number of things can be taken into account, not just strictly black and white, but some other issues or other aspects to the issues.
Well, they're all birds.
Yes, they are.
So, air.
All right, so card 2 is the major issues, challenges, or opportunities.
It's the Knight of Pentacles reversed.
And so maybe some people feel like it's been going too slowly. And so maybe card 1 looks nice and balanced because people are thinking, well, with this new year, with our situations in the West may be more resolved, regardless of how good that is, they can focus on themselves, perhaps.
Well, the major issue might be trying to come to terms with each other over some financial or commercial matters,
Okay.
Whatever that may be. I think here maybe money or maybe something to do even with trade. Agricultural trade comes to mind to me as a possibility. I feel here that there could be something to be worked out here that's in balance unbalanced, and I feel that they might struggle with that. That's why it's here as a major issue.
Well,
They may be struggling with trying to find to try to make agreements with commerce or trade or something like that.
it could just have something to do with maybe the way things communicate between the countries in terms of travel, because the knights usually do talk about travel, so it may be about building some sort of mutual roadways or systems of travel between them. Things like that could also be in the picture. All right, card 3 is the factors at play, positive or negative.
Well, it's the Ten of Cups reversed. I think the factors at play is the fact that, historically they've kind of locked horns and they aren't very much a happy family at times. And I feel that, whatever's going on here, this disagreement over trade or finances or money issues or resource sharing maybe, there could be some issues. And what's interesting here is I'm not sure if some of the disagreements that they have aren't related to land. I'm not sure. But if so, that may rear its head this year too. And, there's some conflict, arguments, and disagreement maybe over borders or over land ownership, something maybe like that.
Well, when you think that the idea that the Ten of Cups is sort of family, foundational unit kind of thing here, maybe this means that one of the factors at play is that there's going to be positive and negative caveats for either of these countries or either of these situations. And so they may have to really come to accept that not everyone will be totally happy with how things progress.
And finally, who will there be at the end of 2025? Well, it's the Eight of Swords. The Eight of Swords is upright.
So some may still feel that they're restrained somewhat and that maybe they feel they didn't really see themselves ending up this way. Maybe they felt something would be different. And so there's going to still be a sense that it's going to move beyond this year.
Well, I mean, what I would say is by the end of 2025, I feel that I think both countries need to do a real reality check here with each other. I think, they're maybe not seeing the other side in their true light. One is treating the other like they're unequal in a way. I don't know, I'm feeling that, or that maybe one feels they have power over the other. When you look at the image on this card and the way it is, I think here that maybe it will be a stalemate. It could mean two. It could be that they don't resolve these issues. Dialogue and clarity may be ongoing. They may be trying to work out some type of, I almost wonder if it's a border dispute, and when I keep looking at that Knight of Pentacles, and we usually look at those as seeds being planted on the ground, but what if that's a border, right? So...
Well, even the idea of the rainbow swirling creates a partition, that there are things on either side. And, of course, the final image, is that too. But maybe that suggests, finally, that the way things end is that either, or maybe more one side more than the other, feels something is still hidden from them or not known, maybe, or there's just suspicion of something that curtails movement or curtails freedom. So there could be that still by the end of the year.
Well, and it just could also be that both sides are just kind of being very cautious with one another. They don't have the confidence to really push the envelope one way or another on the situations that they're dealing with right now. So, I would just say that's why maybe it ends up in a stalemate with nothing really serious happening here, because both sides seem to not have the stomach for it. Right?
I like that.
Yeah. So I don't think we need to recap this one either. It was pretty cut and dry. I think it's some border dispute maybe going on.
There are some of these problems. I don't remember them exactly, but it does seem like it's a long-range problem about
Well, you know, if
border
anybody
issues.
from India or Pakistan is watching this, maybe
Maybe they
you
can
can
chip in
cue
and
us
help us
in
out.
on what's going on there. And if there is such a thing, because maybe we could look at that card those cards differently.
Alrighty.
All right.
Our final
So,
relation.
our final one is going to be North and South Korea. Well, you know, North Korea is a little busy right now. They're sending troops over to Russia to fight in Ukraine. So I don't really know, but they're always threatening. You know, they're always saber rattling. And South Korea, I think sometimes does the same. And so that area can be a hot spot in this year. We're going to have to check it out.
Your shuffle.
Yes. Okay. Well, here we go. Ooh, well, it's the Empress reversed.
And this is the theme or point of focus.
Well, I think both sides, or at least one of the sides, I think the theme or focus is taking care of themselves right now. It just seems as though there could be some also maybe indifference in moving forward on anything in this year ahead. I feel stagnation here, so there could be nothing happening that's going to affect either side with one another. It's possible here, like I said, that North Korea, you know, is sending troops to Ukraine right now, and so they're doing other things, and South Korea may have their own issues that they may have to deal with on the home front.
I think that's a good way of looking at this. I think that the Empress reversed suggests that the major themes are that maybe each of these countries, which have long had a bitter problems between them, really should be just focusing on themselves.
And didn't South Korea recently have issues in their government with somebody that there was a major protest by people there?
Problem. He might have tried to change the vote or something, right?
Well, I don't remember if that's what it was, but whatever it was, it upset the people so much that this person was almost being forced out. I don't think there was a coup. I think that person is still in power, but I'm not sure. So, like I said, there is things in each nation that I think are going to be more front and center. All right.
Card 2, major issues, challenges,
see what the issues
or
might be. See, okay. So again, you know, we've got the Two of Pentacles, but this time it's reversed. And so the major issue is that there is some difficulties on both sides keeping things together, holding things together in their own countries. You know, whether it's because, you know, North Korea is busy, you know, with the war effort in Ukraine, and South Korea is busy with their own political issues going on in their own country right now, that there's just seems to be no reason that these two should be trying to, you know, do anything towards one another, positive or negative.
The figure in the card could be like trying to swing them around sort of in some sort of exercise or movement thing, but the reverse motion sort of suggests that there's not enough equilibrium, that things either slant or don't exactly achieve a good balance, that they're sort of in opposition to each other rather than working with each other.
Right, there is a balance of power issue. So I would say that, you know, the tensions between North and South, let's just say that, are still going to be there. They're still going to be there. So that is a major issue.
All right, card 3 is the factors at play that are positive or negative. Uh-oh. And it's the Five of Swords. And yes, there's clearly always been some very aggressive moves by North Korea towards South. I won't say that there hasn't been anything in kind the other way, but we mostly hear in the West hear about that. This could be saying really that some people feel they have to live by the sword, that they have to apply force for what it is they want, which is basically a total capitulation of South Korea.
Well, the factors at play is who's going to be, who's going to be playing the drum beats of war here. I think, the Five of Swords is a battle that nobody wins. Mm-hmm. And maybe on both sides right now, that's the feeling. Neither of us are going to win this battle. And I would wish that maybe both are just deciding to pull back from one another for a time because they're tired of this stuff. And maybe, like I said, North Korea is trying to solidify their relation with Russia. And maybe, unfortunately, that could be in the hopes that, they could attack South Korea with Russia's support. So I don't know, but this is not good. This is not a good card here because whatever the situation is, nobody wins. So it seems like we're still on a trajectory of same old at the least. And at the worst, it could be that, there's going to be some escalations. There's going to be hostile acts, whether it's war games, whether it's Kim Jong-un testing nuclear warheads again, whatever the case may be, that could provoke incidents.
Traditionally, the Five of Swords is a power over kind of situation.
And so finally,
where do things stand by the end of this year?
It's the Four of Cups upright.
I could have had a V8.
I think here that person is just showing it. It's like this. Nothing much. It just seems like by the end of the year, the tensions are still there, the stress is still there, and each side is not doing much to make it any better, right? Because that's just kind of holding back, staying back from things, letting work go maybe because you're bored or you're tired or you're burnt out.
It's sort of using the idea of options to keep you from fully choosing, if you choose not to decide.
Well, decide or not. I mean, there could be opportunities here, but I feel with the Four upright, they could be ignored. They might be ignored. And so you really got to think about, and maybe some of the opportunities, if there's an opportunity for war, we might be grateful that they're being ignored right now. So, and that there's just a holding back. Things seem to be in a holding pattern by year's end, I think.
That's what it looks like. Anything to wrap up here?
I don't think so. This is pretty cut and dry too. So,
alright.
And we just go on and on with these readings.
We could.
There's so much you can say, and it is kind of hard to get a beat on some of these countries and what is actually going on. But as we've talked about some of the cards and relayed some of their meanings to you, people from these countries may have their own ideas on where things are headed.
And we would only encourage you to leave us a comment here on this video on YouTube or to write us at our Gmail, tfttarot4today@gmail.com.
Constructive comments or opinions and takes on the cards are always appreciated. So, yes. So, anyway, that's it for our 2025 predictions so far. We may be back mid-year. This is especially with the U.S. predictions, because this is such a difficult transition.
It's an unprecedented time.
It's an unprecedented time, but it's a difficult transition that is going on in our country right now on all sides.
Yeah.
So, we're just going to maybe take a temperature check somewhere along the way. All right. So anyway, everybody, thanks for joining us, watching the video, and hopefully we'll see you soon on one of our live shows. Bye-bye.
Bye.